guys, and welcome back to the Girl or Go Bookworm. So today I have my end of February wrap-up slash just a reminder of what I read in the beginning of the month. I was going to film right after my contemporary-a-thon of like, this is what I read. And then I got sick last Thursday, and then my nose has been like all stuffy ever since, and I just felt like I didn't want to film like that. I didn't think that you guys wanted to hear me sound like that, so I didn't do that. And then I was like, okay, like I'll film a separate contemporary-thon and a separate what I read just now. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to put it all in one video, and you could skip around to what you want to watch. So I'm going to really quickly talk about the books that I read in the beginning of February, which have already been included in wrap-ups, but it's been such a long time since I've talked about them. Maybe you don't remember that I read them in February. So I finished The Heir and the Crown by Kira Cass. This is book 4 and 5 in the Selection series. These are kind of spin-offs, like they are still part of the Selection series. This follows America's Daughter, and I really enjoyed these books. This book I gave 4 stars, and this one I gave 5 stars. I actually ended up really enjoying them, considering how everybody else I feel like hates this part of the duology, but I actually really enjoyed them, so I'm glad that I picked those up. I read Between Shades of Grey by Ruta Sepetys. I thought I included this in a wrap-up, and I don't think I actually did. This is one of the historical fictions that I picked out for this month that I wanted to read, which I read like none of. So this is one of those books that I picked out that I wanted to read. It takes place in 1941, and it takes place with our main character and her family getting deported to a working camp in Siberia, which is way far away from home. They're home one day and they get picked up. They're not sure why. They get separated from their father. And it's just this crazy, incredible journey of what they had to go through, and it's just heartbreaking. And I believe I gave this book 4 stars. I definitely think that Out of the Easy is still one of my favorite books by her. But I'm really glad that I finally have read this book, because I remember just seeing it everywhere on BookTube before I joined. So definitely like something that I've been really wanting to. Clearly I've been on BookTube for 5 years. It's taken me this long to get this book. I read Little Beach Street Bakery by Jenny Colgan. This is the first book in a trilogy. It wasn't as lovey-dovey as I thought it was going to be. It was really more about the main character finding herself on this really like remote island, literally remote, really explains it. But I didn't love it as much as everybody else thought I would, and that's totally okay. I'm still going to keep the second book, maybe give the second book a chance at some point, but I just didn't love it as much as everybody else thought I would, which means I gave this 3 stars. I read American Panda by Gloria Chow. This also got 4 stars from me, and I really enjoyed this book as well. It follows a Taiwanese girl, and her family really wants her to marry a Taiwanese man and become a doctor, but she ends up actually liking a Japanese man and doesn't want to be a doctor because she hates germs. So it's really her coming into her own, figuring out what she likes about her culture, what she doesn't, what she wants to finally change, if she's going to change, and I really did enjoy this book, and I gave this book 4 stars. Then we move on to the Contemporary-a-thon, where I read 5 books. I don't have, or maybe I do have them in order. I do have them in order. So the first book that I read was By Your Side by Casey West. This is my first, Casey or Cassie. I keep interchanging it, and I don't mean to. I mean to call her by what her real name is, but for some reason, every time I refer to her, I realize I refer to her as something different. This is my first book by her, and I'm really glad that I picked her up. I do feel, though, that she's going to be one of those authors that I'm going to love to hate kind of situation, where, like, I'm not going to love everything I read by her. And this book I did give 4 stars. It follows 2 characters who get locked in a library together over the weekend. They are the most unlikely couple in the planet. And then it follows, like, their transition after being locked in the library and how they adjust back to everyday life. I did give this book 4 stars. The main character was super cheesy. The storyline was pretty cheesy, but overall, like, for when you just want to, like, get sucked into a contemporary and just kind of be with the contemporary and just kind of have an easy, nice go with reading, definitely something that I wouldn't mind picking up. So I read that one. I read Do Not Disturb by A.R. Torr. This is the second book to the Girl in 6E. And it's an erotic romance thriller. So it follows in the first book, I'm not going to spoil the second book, but the first book it follows this girl. She is a cam girl. She will not leave her house because she has this feeling that she wants to like murder everybody. So she like has this very solo life where she keeps herself very tightly locked in her apartment. She's got somebody who locks her in. She's got a food service. She's got clothes service. And like I said, she's a cam girl, so that's how she makes her money. And something forces her to really kind of push her boundaries of kind of wanting to leave her apartment. That book ends, this book begins, and this book was pretty good too. I gave this book 4 stars. I had a hard time, like, I don't like reading during the week because lately, like, it's really hard for me to read during the week. I get really tired and I just can't concentrate, and I pick other things to do instead of reading. And because it was the Contemporary-thon, I tried to push myself to read, and because of that, I was reading like 20 pages here, 50 pages here, which is so not like me. So like it was really hard to like really invest in the story. So maybe if I had read it in one sitting, I might have, and not even one sitting, but like across 2 sittings, I might have enjoyed it a little bit more. I have since ordered the next book so I could finally finish this trilogy, and so I enjoyed this one. I picked up Palm South University this month by Candy Steiner. This is the second book in the Palm South University trilogy bind-up of novellas. They are released as individual like novellas. Like there's a whole bunch of little parts in here. There's 6. They're released as novellas on the Kindle, but they like combined them into book form. So this is the second book form. And I really enjoyed this one as well. I gave this one also 4 stars. It follows a bunch of characters that are in fraternities and sororities at this Palm South University, and the tribulations that they go through being college students and falling in love, and are you falling in love with the right person, and your family background, and your race, and gender, and sexuality, and all those kinds of things, and drinking, and possible like sexual assault. Like this touches so much of all of that it's kind of like an all-encompassing kind of series where it's very diverse and it tries to hit on all these things that can happen in college. So I really enjoyed this one. I gave this one 4 stars, and I'm really looking forward to picking up the 3rd book, which I'm debating if I want to read it in March or April. So definitely getting to that one at some point this year to finish this series off. I picked up A Little Too Late by Stacey Hart. This book, I believe, is self-published, and I received this book this month. And I didn't receive it. I like ordered it. I went to the bookstore and tried to buy it, and it wasn't there. This follows a family. This woman, she comes over from overseas. I believe she is from the Netherlands, or she's from somewhere in Europe. She comes over to be an au pair. She just leaves this really awful job where she was an au pair, and the guy did not treat her very nicely. And so she's trying it one more time with another family, and this guy, his wife has recently left him 9 months ago. He's trying to raise his 2 kids, and he's having a really hard time, so he hires her. Obviously, love ensues, and sparks start to fly. I did enjoy this book. I gave this book 4 stars. One of the things that I really like about it, too, is when you go to a new chapter, they all have these, like, flowers with the title head. I enjoyed it. It was nothing super duper special, but I definitely enjoyed it more than a 3-star read, so I gave this one also 4 stars. I feel like it was just 4-star February. That's what I feel like. Then I picked up Broken Beautiful Hearts by Cami Garcia, which also, surprise, surprise, got 4 stars. And I actually really enjoyed this book too. This follows a girl who gets, her boyfriend pushes her down the stairs and nobody really believes her, and she has to kind of like reinvent herself. She is a huge soccer player, wants a soccer scholarship, so her mom ends up sending her away to live with her cousins to kind of rehabilitate, get away from all this like negativity and people who are trying to harass her. And I I really enjoyed this book in the very beginning, and I really enjoyed the very end, and then the middle was kind of mixed. It all of a sudden, like, kind of almost takes a step away from the domestic violence and turns into, like, this, like, romancy, like, regular contemporary, which I really didn't appreciate. Like, I really wanted to see that internal struggle. I wanted to see, like, what she was going through with, like, this domestic violence thing. I feel like because she kind of not ran away from it, but I felt like I didn't get the intense emotions that I thought I was going to be getting with this book. But the beginning, like I said, was really intense and really good, and then the ending, like I thought it was going to, it picked back up and it was really, really good as well. So the middle part is what kind of kept it from going to a 5-star, but I did like the middle part, so it wasn't like an awful middle part. It was definitely a good middle part, but just wasn't what I was anticipating when I went into this book. So 4 stars for this book. That ended the Contemporary-thon, and then Monday and Tuesday wasn't Contemporary-thon, but I like kept reading because I had the 2 days off from work, so I picked up The Way I Used to Be, and I started 25 pages of this, and I put this down to pick up a different book, but then I eventually ended up picking this book up again, too. So when I did pick this book back up again, I did give this book 3 stars. This also was a book that I wanted more from. This follows a girl who, when she's 14, her brother's best friend sneaks into her bedroom in the middle of the night and rapes her, and it follows her through the next 4 years of high school. So it goes through her freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year, and how this rape kind of affected her. And I saw reviews who kind of agreed with me too. There's so many 4- and 5-star reviews out there of people who love this book. So I'm definitely in the minority. So when you think about this book, I definitely want you to realize that I am definitely in the minority of thinking with this. Not that that makes my thinking wrong or makes their thinking wrong. I'm just in the minority. So take what I say and think about it with what you want to think about. It's hard to not like a book like this when it's such an intense topic, because then you feel awful when you feel a different way than everybody else. When everybody else is reading it and saying, oh my gosh, it was so impactful and all this, and then you kind of feel like it didn't portray that, it's hard, because you don't want to look like you're saying that the book was wrong and that the choices that the girl made was wrong, but like, I wasn't thrilled with the 100% of the choices she made. I didn't understand the backing of a lot of decisions she made. This girl, like, everything negative happened, and obviously, like, I know, like, sometimes when you are sexually assaulted, it then spirals into ruining the rest of your life as well because of the decisions that it kind of causes you to make. But I felt like not all of the decisions were explained. Like, at one point in her senior year, not a huge spoiler, it has nothing to do with anything climactic or anything, but, like, she starts referring to her parents by their first name. But it never says, by the way, I'm going to start calling my parents by their first names, or I think I've lost all respect for my parents, so I'm going to start calling them by their first names. Out of nowhere, it just switches. And if you didn't notice it, then it's just a fact that just disappears into thin air. But, like, for me, like, I was like, but why? Like, why? Like, what happened? Like, I don't know, it just spiraled too deep without a lot of explanation, and it was hard to read this book because it was 350 or 320 pages, no, 360 something pages, and it read like a 500-page book. It was just like, I was ready to get out of this, like, negative cycle. And I don't know, like I said, like, it was alright, like, I didn't hate it, and I felt like, obviously, it has its place, but I just didn't see what everybody else saw, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know, I'm trying not to say anything that's offensive, because not that I have anything to say that's offensive, but I'm, like, trying to choose my words appropriately. So, it was what it was. It doesn't hurt me that I read it, and it doesn't benefit me that I read it. It just kind of was. The book that I actually picked up in between starting that and ending that was Till Death by Jennifer L. Armentrout, and this book I gave 5 stars. I actually really enjoyed this one as well. This book follows a main character girl who was also sexually assaulted. She was taken hostage by this serial killer, and she was the only one who was able to escape him alive. His serial killer name was the Groom. So she leaves her city after this all happened. She pushes everybody away. She basically pushes her best friend away, her boyfriend at that time away. disappears for 10 years, moves somewhere, gets a different college degree somewhere else. Sorry, my foot is falling asleep. She basically leaves for 10 years, and then I'm going to rearrange so I could sit properly. She leaves for 10 years, and now she's coming back. And when she comes back, all of a sudden, all these bad things start happening. Things that were similar to what the groom did start occurring, and it's kind of this, like, thriller of, like, what is happening. So definitely it was really good. I gave it 5 stars. Highly recommend this book. Then I read nothing after that. So that was Tuesday. Read nothing Wednesday. I don't think so. Read nothing Thursday. Read nothing Friday. Read Saturday and read Sunday. And the Saturday and Sunday read, I finally picked up The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. And this book reads a lot faster than you would think, being over 500 pages. It was really good. I gave it 4 stars. Everybody says how this book wrecks them, and it didn't wreck me. And it's funny because, like, I am such an emotional reader. Like, it doesn't take that much to make me cry. And I did cry. I'm not saying I didn't cry, because there's parts that are just, like, really hard to read about. But it didn't feel like when people are like, oh my gosh, this book wrecked me. I'm like, didn't wreck me. So I feel like it's definitely a to each its own. So people who are worried about it potentially wrecking you, be careful, obviously, like, if that's what you feel like, but I thought it was going to wreck me too, and it didn't, so I really enjoyed it. It follows 2 sisters in World War II and their different experiences. They live in France during this time, which I thought was cool because I've never read actually anything that really takes place in World War II in France, except for, I want to say, The Soldier's Wife possibly took place in France, but I thought it was a really unique perspective. I don't know, there were sometimes where I cared about one sister more than I cared about another, like, just give me more about the other sister, but then I'd find myself being like, no, give me more about the other sister. So I did enjoy it. I thought it was okay. I thought it was not okay. I thought it was good. I gave it 4 stars. So definitely a book that I'm glad that I finally have picked up, so that way I can see why everybody else loves it. And then the book that I'm currently reading that my goal is to finish, because today is the 27th of February, so I have tonight and tomorrow to finish it, and my goal is to finish Velvet Undercover by Terry Brown. This was not on my TBR either. Apparently that was also the theme song of this month. I ended up picking this up at random last night, and I read 100 pages of it, so I have 228 pages to go or something like that, so this should get done. This also takes place in World War I. So not World War II, but takes place in World War I. So another historical fiction. So far what I've gathered is it's about this girl. She just did this, like, girls course or something like that. She just graduated from it, and she kind of gets taken in to be a spy. I don't know too much more about it because, like I said, I'm only 100 pages in. But so far, so good, and I'm looking forward to seeing where this book goes. So yeah, that is my wrap up for this month. Basically, I took my TBR, I feel like, and threw it out the window, but that's okay. Things like that happen. But I'm going to keep filming. I have 2 more videos that I want to film today, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If there's anything that you want to let me know about any of these books, if you read any of them, or if you have any questions,